Good evening, class. This is Mrs. Albright, and tonight we are working on Module 5, Lesson 23, and our objective this evening is to learn how to add and multiply unit fractions to build fractions greater than 1. So make sure you have a scratch paper or a whiteboard and work along with me, and let's get started. So to start out, I want to just go over what we know about basic multiplication. When we see the expression 6 times 2, we need to think of this as 6 equal groups of 2. And so I can write that as 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. And altogether, that would equal 12. And I can do that with multiplication or repeated addition. So multiplying fractions by a whole number is really no different. If we did this mathematical expression, 6 times 1/2, well, my unit is 1/2, so that's not changing. What this expression says is 6 equal groups of 1/2. So that would be the same thing as 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2, which altogether would equal 6 halves. And if we convert that to a mixed number, that would be the whole number 3. I could also show this on a number line. If this is 0, I would have 1/2, 1 whole, 1 1/2, 2 whole, 2 1/2, 3 whole. And I could hop on that number line 6 times. So it's 6 equal groups of 1/2 to land on that answer, which is 3 whole. I could look at this a slightly different way and see if I can make equal groups. I know that 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1 whole. So what I could do is put parentheses around here for my groups of 1 whole. So now I have 3 equal groups of 1/2 plus 1/2. And I can rewrite that as 3 equal groups of 2 halves, which I know would be 3 because 2 halves is equal to 1. So 6 times 1/2, we could also say that that is equal to 3 times 2 halves. I'm going to solve this problem in a slightly different way using a number line. Here we have 10 times 1/5. I'm going to start my number line with 0, and I'm going to put little marks on the number line. I'm going to put 10 dashes on the number line because that's how many equal groups I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I know that since I'm working with fifths, that is my unit, that 5/5. So I'm thinking in my head, here's my little thought bubble, 5/5 is equal to 1 whole. So to find out where my 1 whole is, I need to make a group of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be my 1 whole. I can make another group of 5. This would be 2 whole. So I can see my 10 equal groups of 1/5 ended on 2. So my answer for this is 2. So instead of thinking of this as 10 equal groups of 1/5, I have 2 equal groups of 5/5, and that gets me to the same position on my number line. This one is for you to try, 8 times 1/4. And I want you to write your answer in its simplest form. So that means writing it as a whole number or a mixed number if there is a fractional part left over. Hopefully, after you multiplied this, 8 equal groups of 1/4, I could rewrite this as 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. This would be 8 times for a total of 8/4. And if I decompose that, I get 4/4 and 4/4 for a total of 2 whole. So hopefully that is the answer that you got. For this next problem, we are going to see what happens if our answer does not work out as a whole number. So 9 times 1/4. If I have 9 equal groups of 1/4, I can also look at this, instead of writing out that long repeated addition sentence, I can also look at the 9 and multiply that by my numerator. And my answer would be 9/4. So to decompose that as a whole number, I can take out 4/4 to make 1 whole. I could take out another 4/4 to make 1 whole. So that's used up 8, but I have 9 total. So then I would have 1/4 extra. So this fraction, 9/4, can be decomposed as 4/4 plus 4/4 plus 1/4. Those 4/4 turn into 1 whole, so my final answer is 2 whole, 1/4. I want you to try this problem with 7 times 1/2. Hopefully after you tried it, you got 7 halves, and then decompose this as 2 halves, 2 halves, 2 halves. So that's a total of 6 halves right there, but I need to get to 7. So my final one would be 1/2. So this equals 3 whole and then 1/2 extra. One more for you to try before we get to the final quiz, 13 times 1/5. After solving that, you should get the improper fraction 13/5, and then that is decomposed as 5/5 plus 5/5. So that gives me a total of 10/5, but I need to get to 13, so I still have 3/5 extra. So that final answer is 2 whole, 3/5. Here are your final quiz questions. 7 times 1/3 equals, 11 times 1/5 equals, 9 times 1/5 equals, and 7 times 1/2 equals. Please give me your answers as mixed numbers. Bring any questions you have back to class. Have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow.